Hi everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Chasers. Just going over what we can expect coming up this week and on into this weekend. You've probably heard some chatter about some snow coming up for Wednesday and Thursday. Today is Tuesday, December 7th. And then we'll take a look on into this weekend where it looks like we're going to have a really powerful front and very powerful storm impact the Pacific Northwest. We'll take a look at those details coming up here. Right now, you can see this cold air that's spilled out over the Gulf of Alaska here. It's making its way towards Pacific Northwest. It's going to bring some pretty good snowfall into the Cascades and into British Columbia and Oregon. And we'll take a closer look at that here. Let's look at we're looking at 5,000 feet, 850 millibars here. You can see that cold air just spilling down to the Pacific Northwest. Going to be a pretty prolific snowmaker for the Cascades. Here's the NAM 3KM. This is the 0Z run that just came out tonight. You can see some pretty widespread foot plus snowfall amounts. Snoqualmie Pass showing in just a little over 2 feet. Stevens Pass just behind that. And so if you're traveling on I-90 or Highway 2 Thursday especially, be wary of that. There's some pretty good snowfall amounts and the Cascades can use it. There's been a snow drought through the entire western US, and we're going to take a bite into that here coming up in this next week or two. So that brings us to what is coming up for Saturday. You might have heard a little bit about this now, and check this out. This is the tropopause temperature. This is just showing cold air. Actually, the height of the tropopause really is what it's reflecting. And you can see this big mass of cold air over Siberia there, and watch this thing just kind of fly across the Pacific Ocean here towards the Aleutians, out over the Gulf of Alaska, and just slams into the West Coast. This is going to be a pretty powerful front. These are pretty unusual. Usually, this is a pretty perfect route for air just from Siberia across Pacific Ocean to the Pacific Northwest. And a lot of these systems will modify quite a bit. The ocean is relatively warm, and that kind of works on these air masses that move across them. But this one's coming rapidly enough where it's probably still going to be a pretty strong front as it gets to our region. I'll show you some other dynamics working along with this system. This is looking at Saturday morning. Notice how deep this low pressure is over the interior of British Columbia, 969 low. That thing looks like it belongs out over the Gulf of Alaska. And you see this high pressure over the Great Basin and the continental USA here, and that leaves Washington, Oregon, and southern BC in this very tight pressure gradient between this deep low and this pretty strong high over the continental US. So that's what's going to bring the big winds to the Washington coast, some of the interior of western Washington, southern BC. Taking a look at some of the wind speeds, here's the GFS. You can see the coastal regions here expecting near hurricane force gusts, close to 70 plus miles per hour. Astoria, Cape Disappointment, Southwest Washington there. And these are pretty significant winds for Seattle too. Check out this 56 mile per hour. These are really high on the GFS. The operational run usually it plays it pretty conservative with these wind speeds, especially in the Puget Sound. So these are pretty high. It doesn't show the big winds up north that the European does, but there's always going to be some differences this many days out. We're looking, it's still Tuesday. We're looking at Saturday before this event comes in. Here's the European for SeaTac. These are the ensemble runs. You can see a very large amount of the ensembles have 50 plus miles per hour for SeaTac. Some of them even a little bit higher, 60, and a couple of them are even at 70. Usually you can just throw out the highest 1 or 2 and the lowest 1 or 2. But even then, the mean is close to 50 miles per hour. And we've already had 3 50 mile per hour gusts at SeaTac this year, which is pretty unusual. So we might get another one here coming up on Saturday during the day. These speeds are about for 10 a.m. on into the afternoon. So the winds could start anytime just from morning to late morning on through the early afternoon is what we're looking at on Saturday. So what about snowfall? This system is going to be a big snowfall maker too. This is not bringing warm tropical air with it. It's bringing quite a bit of precipitable water and a lot of precipitation, but it's going to be cold enough where a lot of this is going to fall as snow in the Cascades. A lot of rain still down low in the lowlands, and so that's going to add to some of the landslide concerns. We've got so much precipitation going on the last month or so that any additional rain is just going to add to those landslide threat, especially in the Seattle area, any hillsides, so be aware of that. But the good news is the rivers aren't going to go through the big rises because a lot of this is going to fall as snow through the Cascades. And zooming out a little bit here, you can see these beneficial snows are going to come all the way down through the Sierras, all the way through the western mountain region. This is a huge snow drought out here, so this is going to be really welcome to go ahead and try to fill these aquifers and just try to quench some of this drought going on in the western US here. But check out all the way through BC, the coastal range, all the way through the Cascades into the Sierras, some really beneficial snows, and really starts to build that snowpack. So let's take a look out into the future here. This is the European weeklies. I believe this ran actually a full day ago now, but it's still worth taking a look at. If we go into the future here is mid and then late December. We're at Christmas Eve here, and Christmas Day, you can see a pretty strong signal through Canada for some below average temperatures, and that extends all the way down through Nevada into California, the entire West Coast basically. You can see some of the areas of extreme western Alaska staying above normal. It's probably from all the warm air coming up in the ridging out here. It's going to force some of this cold air down and maybe bring some of this into the interior of the Pacific Northwest. So we'll see how that plays out as each individual event arrives. And again, that's for Christmas Day. This is for the end of the year here. Still a strong signal for the west coast of the USA. Check that out, British Columbia especially, down through Washington into Nevada. And if I keep going into January here, you'll notice just a stubborn signal for some below average temperatures all the way through into late January. So we'll see how that plays out. But for you lowland snow lovers in Western Washington and British Columbia and Oregon, this is a promising signal. There's no sure thing, of course, with lowland snow, but we'll be keeping our eye on it, and I'll keep updating on Twitter. If you guys like these videos, click like, make sure to subscribe. I'm trying to get enough so I can do some live briefings and eventually maybe get this channel big enough where I can get some other weather experts on here, do some interviews, and maybe I'll start doing these briefings every day or every other day, even if there's enough weather to talk about, depending on how much you guys like these videos. So click like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later, and I'll see you on Twitter. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye.